Look at all these little animals with a tan back and a white belly. These are black-buck antelope. The big animals with the orange color are Barasingha deer from India. And the big animals with the off-white color are Bactrian deer from Afghanistan. And they're endangered. There are only about 10,000 left. What else we got? We got those little spotted deer. Those are called axis deer. And we've had them in the zoo since 1899 when we opened. We also got a lot of peacocks. Peacocks are the national bird of India. So let's hear now from our deer lady.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm part of the Bronx Zoo NY. We call this area care for about 40 Barasingha deer, 15 axis deer, 10 black buck, and a pair of muntjac. We start our day by checking on all the animals, making sure they are healthy, behaving normally, and safe. Sometimes fawns and calves are born overnight. Newborns are given a neonatal exam, which includes weighing, vaccination, and tagging for identification purposes. While the animals are in the meadow, we prepare their nighttime holding areas so that they have a safe and clean place to spend the night.
Well, we all know that an animal that is extinct no longer exists, like the dinosaurs or the dodo bird. The animal we're going to see now is actually extinct in nature. That means you can only find them in zoos. It's called the Mongolian wild horse, also called Chvalsky's horse. As we go by the horses, I want you to take a look at them and notice how they're different from our domestic American horses. First of all, they're little. They have short legs and stocky bodies. And look at the mane. It sticks straight up in the air like a mohawk haircut. And between the eyes, you don't see a forelock. The forelock is the hair that falls between the eyes on an American horse. Well, I mentioned that they were extinct in nature. That was in the 1960s. And at that time, there were zoos all around the world that said, hey, we have Mongolian wild horses. Why don't we take some of ours and create herds? And then we'll reintroduce them into Mongolia and the other parts of Asia where they become extinct. And you know what? That's exactly what they did. So now we have Mongolian wild horses running around Mongolia where they belong. It's one of the great success stories in animal conservation. Now let's hear from the horse guy.
Jonathan Slat, being the Russia and Northeast Asian coordinator for the Wildlife Conservation Society. I believe that wildlife has a place in this world. My job is to find practical solutions to how people and wildlife interact with their area. Little Chvalsky's horse was extinct in the wild in the 1960s. On a recent trip to Kazakhstan, I thought about the ongoing and successful efforts in the country to bring these horses back to the Central Asian steppe. The world needs happy stories. Watch the impossible become possible to see what we're story. That's what's happening today for Chvalsky's horse.
We got our first Chvalsky's horses back in 1902. Since then, we've had more than 50 baby horses born here. Where we've got an endangered species called the gaur, also known as the Indian bison. These are the largest wild cattle in the world. Males can weigh 2,000 pounds and be 10 feet long. And wait till you see the horns on them. A male gaur can fight off anything with those horns, even a tiger. What endangers them is humans, who are taking over their habitat. Now let's hear from Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave, a wild animal keeper here in Wild Asia. When the Bronx Zoo received 2 female and 1 male gaur from the San Diego Zoo, it took a couple of introductions before all the animals were comfortable. But after a little bit of time, the 3 new animals fully integrated into the herd, and we have the family that you see today. A family group of gaur can consist of up to 40 individuals and is typically led by a matriarch. Since the two females added to this family, there have been a number of offspring. This is important because gaur are considered to be vulnerable species, so it's vital to maintain a healthy growing herd during this season.
Right now, you might be hearing noise coming from the concrete jungle rather than the Asian one. Sometimes we forget that the beautiful Bronx Zoo is right in the middle of New York City. And the noise you hear behind us now is traffic on the Bronx River Parkway. So the zookeepers built the wall here to keep all that traffic noise away from the next animal, the tiger. Tigers live alone in the wild. That's why we only have one tiger at a time in our exhibit. We're going to slow down now, and you might be tempted to stand up to look for the tiger, but do not stand up. Today we have Josie out. He is an 8-year-old, 400-pound Siberian tiger. There he is, right underneath us. He's just out taking a walk. Well, he can afford to take a walk, you know. He doesn't have to hunt for a living. We feed him here. The tigers out in the wild, they'll make a kill, and they'll sit down and gorge themselves on up to 40 pounds of meat at one time. That's like eating 160 quarter-pounders at one time. Sit down, please. Sit down, please. Thank you. But remember, the tigers are endangered. There are only about 4,000 tigers left in the wild. That's why here at the zoo, we participate in tiger conservation programs. And now we're going to go by the rear end of the gaur exhibit, and here you get a close-up of their horns. Now you can see why a tiger will leave them alone. And now we're going by the rear end of the first meadow where we were as we got off the bridge. Got more Barasingha deer down here. Look at the antlers on the males. They are now fully grown. And we got a lot of peacocks. A lot of peacocks. By the way, the word peacock really only refers to the male. Females are peahens. Babies are pea chicks. Altogether, they're called peafowl. Now we're entering a clump of bamboo where we have our babarusa. That's a word in the Malay language. They're from Indonesia. It means pig deer because the males have tusks that remind people of antlers on deer. Look at that guy down there. You see how the tusks kind of erupt out of the top of the snout. Babarusa are endangered, but we have a very successful breeding program here. Now we're entering the elephant exhibit. We got Happy the elephant behind the trees there on the right. And we got Patty the elephant further to the right. These are both old lady elephants. They're both over 50. That's old for an elephant. And they're Indian elephants. You can tell that because they have little ears. African elephants have big ears. But Indian elephants are endangered. After World War II, they counted them, and there were over 100,000 then. Now there are fewer than 50,000. and the numbers keep going down. You'll notice that they are covered in dirt and hay and grass and stuff. They pick all that stuff up off the ground and throw it on their body to keep the bugs off. And they're very pampered here at the zoo. They get baths and they get pedicures. Well, we're going to leave Happy and Patty behind and head to the rhino exhibit. We got Callie the rhino down here in the mud wallow. You know, everybody thinks rhinos are armor-plated, but it's not true. Their skin is very sensitive, especially to insect bites. So they create mud wallows by stomping around in the mud with their 4,000 pounds of weight until they made a mud bathtub. And then they lie down and roll around and get the mud all over their body. Yuck! And it keeps the bugs off. Callie is a 35-year-old Indian rhino. They are highly endangered. There are only about 2,000 Indian rhinos left in the world. So let's hear now from the rhino people.
The rhinos you see here are Indian rhinos. We work with habitats all over the world that are homes to rhinos. Here is a note from our field office in Sumatra, and Uman, who works with the Sumatran rhino. Sumatran rhinos are the smallest of the world's rhinos, and they are considered critically endangered.
My name is Uman Christine, and I'm the Species Conservation Specialist for WCS Indonesia program. We carried out an island-wide survey of the last wild population of Sumatran rhinoceros in Indonesia. With so many unknowns on how to manage Sumatran rhinos in the wild or captivity, our study showed definitively that we must protect them at source. The cost of doing nothing could be the extinction of the species, and I can't imagine that.
Well, we take care of rhinos and tigers and all kinds of endangered species by participating in a cooperative zoo management program. It's called the Species Survival Plan. This is where we get together with zoos all around the country, and we make sure that between us, we have genetically diverse populations of these rare and endangered species. Now, how many times have I said endangered? Well, that's because most of the species on the monorail tour are endangered, and they're endangered because of human activity. Now we're entering an exhibit where we have several types or species of deer and one species of antelope. The big animals that are molting are called sambar deer. They're the largest deer in southern Asia. Males can weigh 650 pounds. And the other big animals with the white rumps are called nilgai antelope. Nilgai means blue bull in Hindi, but we don't have any bulls out today. These are all girls. Notice that the nilgai antelope wear black and white socks. And you're going to see a lot of little deer. Those are called hog deer because they're short and squat like hogs. But the little red deer that is running away from us is called a muntjac deer. We only have 2 of them in the entire zoo. There's another one around here somewhere. I'll see a lot of hog deer lying down there by the fence. But it looks like you have escaped the peacock drama that we get a couple of times a day. You know, peacocks, as gorgeous as they are, that's how obnoxious they can be. They don't fly well, but they fly well enough to get up on top of the monorail track. And when they do, they will sit there and stare us down and just dare us to run them over. Of course, we're not allowed to do that. tufted deer exhibit. You see one tufted deer up there by the fence, lying in the dead leaves. That is not a baby deer, that's a full-grown adult. They never get to be more than about 40 pounds. Now we're crossing back over the Bronx River, which is a habitat for fish and turtles, and a place where migrating birds can stop and take a rest. And now we're entering a very rocky area where we keep the mountain goats. We have two species, Himalayan tar and markhor. Markhor are the ones with the furlicky horns. Males have big horns, females have little horns. These horns can grow to be more than 5 feet long and hold a tail. But don't feel sorry for them. Horns aren't heavy, they're hollow. As opposed to antlers, remember deer have antlers. Antlers are solid and very heavy, and I think the deer are happy when they fall off after mating season's over. Markhor goats are the national animal of Pakistan, where they got a lot of mountains. But all mountain goats have specially adapted hooves that have rubbery bottoms. That's what they use to grab onto the rock. But now we all have to be very quiet, because the next animal is asleep. He's nocturnal. He sleeps during the day. His name is Linus, and he's an 8-year-old red panda. Look down, you'll see him. Red pandas live in Nepal and China. And in Nepal, they're called hunho, which means fire fox. But Linus isn't related to foxes, and he's not related to the giant panda, even though he eats bamboo. Linus is really related to skunks and weasels. So remember, the Bronx Zoo is part of the Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS. We have 5 parks here in New York City. We got the Bronx Zoo where you are right now, and there's the Central Park Zoo in Manhattan, and the Queens Zoo in Queens, and the Prospect Park Zoo in Brooklyn, and the New York Aquarium in Coney Island. And we have our scientists out there at over 300 locations in more than 60 countries. Because, as you know, humans and wildlife are in conflict everywhere nowadays. So we have our scientists everywhere protecting endangered species. Well, we're going to have to stop now for 10 seconds to reboot the computer.